Port Credit, the jewel in the crown of Mississauga, has been a centre for commerce and an attraction for visitors for hundreds of years. Archaeological evidence suggests that Iroquoian and Algonquian-speaking peoples were attracted to the Credit River Valley over a period of thousands of years. By 1700, an Ojibwe group known as the Mississaugas had driven the Iroquois from the north shore of Lake Ontario. In the 1720s, the French had established many trading posts around Lake Ontario, one of which was located at the mouth of the Credit River, a name derived from the custom of allowing the natives to trade on credit. After the decline of French power in the region, the British continued to trade with the natives. In 1805, the British signed a land treaty with the Mississaugas, who retained only a 1-mile strip each side of the river from Cranberry Cove to Hiawatha Park as native hunting grounds. Settlement of Toronto Township had begun, and August 2, 2005 marks the 200th anniversary of the treaty signing. In 1818, another treaty was signed opening the 1-mile strip to British settlers. The village of Port Credit was surveyed in 1834, and construction of a harbour began in earnest. When the Mississaugas relocated to the new Credit Reserve in 1847, the Credit River was opened to commercial expansion, and Port Credit went through a period of tremendous economic growth as a harbour. The harbour allowed Toronto Township to export goods such as textiles, strawberries, grain and staves by loading them onto larger boats which could carry them to other parts of Canada and to the world. This prosperous period declined in the mid-1850s as a result of both a Great Fire, which destroyed the west end of the harbour, and the construction of the Great Western Railway, which diverted commerce away from the village. For most of the last century, one of the primary building materials for construction in Toronto was Dundas shale from the bottom of Lake Ontario. The vessels which raised this stone were called stone hookers, and a great many of them were based at Port Credit. The stone hooking trade kept the port alive, and Port Credit slowly began to recover. The peak of the stone hooking trade was 1881, when no less than 23 stone hooking vessels operated out of Port Credit, providing a significant boost to the local economy. Fishing was also a major industry for the harbour, supplying fish to the township and to markets as far away as Toronto and Hamilton. The arrival of the St. Lawrence Starch Company in 1889 and other large industries started to revitalise Port Credit's economy. The St. Lawrence Starch Company, perhaps best known for its beehive syrup, was founded in 1889 by John Gray and Archie Hutchinson. The original factory was constructed on 10 acres of land at Lakeshore and Hurontario roads and consisted of 3 buildings, a small wharf, and employed 25 workers. During the 20th century, the company expanded rapidly, eventually covering 27 acres of land. The factory was demolished in June 1994, but the administration building remains today. This building was constructed during the Depression by the employees of the company in order to prevent layoffs. Another very important industry in Port Credit was the brickyard. It began operating in 1889 on land purchased by Thomas Nightingale. It was in operation until 1936, when it was sold to be used as a coal yard. Expanded and upgraded many times, at its height the brickyard employed some 250 people, built its own rail yard and wharf for shipping, and was producing in excess of 1 million bricks a week. Port Credit was incorporated as a village in 1914. It acquired town status in 1961 and became a part of the city of Mississauga in 1974. One of the most familiar sights near any harbour is a lighthouse, and Port Credit has had its share of them. The first was constructed in 1863 by F.C. Capriol, a businessman who wished to develop Port Credit into an industrial town. In 1936, an accidental fire burned the lighthouse to the ground. The present lighthouse was constructed in 1991. From its deck, one can get a very good view of the Credit River, as well as the marina and Port Credit itself. As Port Credit grew, community and recreational facilities developed. Clark Hall was built in 1922 and became a gathering place for spelling bees, community dances, and it was the village's first movie theatre. The hall served as the Port Credit municipal offices from 1941 until 1974. The hall is still being used today by the community. Today, Port Credit still retains a strong community pride and spirit.